Okay, we've spent lots of time looking at PC, how the operating system behaves, and some general ideas how the PC works behind it. And now it's time to get into some of the Office 2016 projects. So our first one is a Word project. We're going to just be looking over some basics. If you've seen Office before, this may be a lot of review. Pay attention then to what's different in Office 2016. Because we're doing basic stuff here, because remember, this is fundamentals. So if you've seen it before, don't sit back and go to sleep. Let's browse through the features in the ribbon in Word so you'll make good time. And make sure you can do all of these things. As you come to each chapter, skim over these things and think, okay, I've done that before. I'm used to that. Oh, I've seen this. Oh, formatting pictures. What's new in formatting pictures? Oh, how do we put in a page border? A lot of people don't know actually how to make a page border. So you've seen it before. Jump to the things that maybe are new and jump to the section that has that in that. So for this first little project, we're going to create a document that looks like this. Basic text here. Now this, you may think, how do I do that? There's a couple ways I'm going to show you how to do that. They're doing it, I'm calling it the hard way, formatting the paragraph, but there's some good knowledge to know how you can do this in a paragraph formatting, filling a paragraph. Here we're bringing in a picture and then doing some basic text, various formatting of the text, bulleted points, a tagline with some special decoration on the text, and then the page border. So to get started in this, first thing I want to do is start up Word and pay attention to where this is going to be going. I'm going to bring over my eLearn page over here so I know exactly what I'm going to be doing with it when I'm done. Going over to my eLearn page, going over to my courses. And over here in CS101, although this will be the teacher's view of it, down here in the Word section is where I'm going to be uploading my Word projects. And I can, oh, I guess I don't have the link there, so I'll look back over here in the syllabus. Where's my syllabus? Here we go. In the syllabus, I have the list here. The project is going to be getting started, or Word Module 1 is going to be that first Word document. Okay, so I'm going to call the assignment Word Module 1. So that'll be a place to upload it over there on eLearn. And I'll make a upload place for that right now before I forget. It's going to be called Word Module 1. But you're going to need to put your name in the front of the file. So Word Module 1. And you're going to, I'm going to start up Word here in a second here. Let's see, I have Word on my taskbar because I'm going to be using it so often. I'm going to start a blank document. And I thought I had done this. I'll click cancel. This is weird. I thought I had already activated it. It's starting to act a little weird for me. Blank document. And now before I do anything else, before I even get started to work on this, I'm going to save it into the right place. Okay? So I'm going to do a File, Save As, or Save, since it's the first time I'm saving. Save is the same as a Save As. I'm going to save it. Let's see if it'll let me go to my OneDrive. Just to see if the OneDrive part works. It used to be really slow. Now that we've got faster internet, see if it gets me in there faster. That got me in a little quicker here, and I'm going to my cs101 folder. Do I have a, I don't think I have a fall 2017, so I'm going to browse. Actually, yeah, I'm going to make a new folder on my OneDrive. Actually, yeah, make a new folder on my OneDrive because it won't let me create a folder from this. Here's my OneDrive. I'll make a new folder, cs101 fall 2017. If you don't have a folder, make a folder by your name, put cs101 in there, so anyone else logging in as student knows those are your files. And I'm going to create this file. I'm going to save it as Manning. Be sure to put your last name in the front of the file name, not my last name, your last name, and then call it Word Module 1. Word Module 1, that'll work. And now that I save it, it's making me sign in again. Interesting. So the OneDrive can get a little annoying when you're first connecting here. Okay, making me log in again. Not quite sure why it's making me log in again. I already did that. All right, here we go. So it still is a little annoying dealing with OneDrive, but there, it's finally letting me in. Now we have our document ready to go. And then first thing we want to do is kind of just browse. We've done this a little bit. Get familiar with that ribbon up there. We're going to be spending time on the Home tab most of the time. And you've been backstage on our little field trip. All these other menus, if you've done this before, get familiar with what's new on the other ribbons, because there's a few new things. In this particular project, so we're doing the basics, so we're going to that home ribbon most of the time. Okay, so we're going to be making that. So let's see now what we have to do next. We start the blank document. We're entering text. And about every project, they go through this step of here's the different things you can do. You don't have to go maximized if you like working in a little window. The thing is, as the window shrinks in Word, let me show you, depending on the size of your window, your ribbons will look different. As my window gets narrower, some of my ribbons collapse. And so if you have a smaller window, and you're going to say, wait a minute, it doesn't look the same on my screen as it does in the book. It's because as you stretch your window out, some of the ribbon items expand out and look a little bit different. So keep that in mind. If you want to go maximize, that's fine. And then we're going to start entering the text for our document. And then we're going to format that text. So we're going to first put Surf's Up. And then we're going to see what we can do to make it look as fancy as they did later on. So first we're going to get the content, Surf's Up, and then adjust the content. So Surf's Up, exclamation point. You can zoom using this little zoom button here, zoom slider down in the lower right, or you can roll your scroll bar, which I like better. Hitting enter starts a new paragraph. One thing this book does a lot is we want to see our paragraph markings while we're working, just to know how everything is going. This little icon right here up on the home ribbon that looks like a backward P, that's to turn on and off paragraph marks. And there you see the shortcut key is Control asterisk. This lets you see where I have started a new paragraph. Oftentimes you'll see these marks all over the place, but don't worry, that's not going to print out. That's just showing you where paragraphs start. And you can always turn that off and on to just confirm how things are formatted. So in the book, currently see they have it off. Occasionally you'll see they've turned it back on. And there's them turning the formatting marks on. Inserting blank line, just hitting enter. And again, the formatting marks help us to see where people have entered blank lines. There I can see I hit a tab while I was there. Without the formatting marks, I wouldn't know that there's a tab hiding there. So that's where it kind of comes in handy. And I really don't want the tab there, so I'm backspacing. And I don't want a ton of lines there, so I can see that I have extra lines, and I can backspace away from them. Without the formatting marks, I wouldn't know that they're there. So I've got blank lines, couple blank lines, and then they're adjusting the view of their page. I'm going to skip that part. And then we're going to put in some text and then watch how the word wrapping works. So I can copy paste this text. Since you don't, unless you have the online version, you just have to type this in. Learn to surf or improve your form skills. Let's see if it lets me copy paste. Copy. Oh, look, when I paste from that, it brings all this other extra stuff. So I can backtrace over that. I'm going to turn off the formatting marks to make that a little easier to read. And I can always Control-Shift greater than to enlarge the text, and later on adjust the text size. So that's our text, and you have this in your book as well. If you get any misspellings as you type, it will immediately show little red squigglies, and sometimes actually auto-correct. Notice I don't have to type the Enter key. It automatically wraps the text for me. Most word processors do that now. If you want to force a new line at any line, I can hit Shift-Enter and force it to start a new line without starting a new paragraph. I see, instead of a paragraph mark, I see a little arrow, and I can undo that. Remember, you can always undo with Control-Z or the little back undo up here, and as you hover over it, it reminds you what the shortcut key is. So undo what I just did, redo what I just did. The thing about this undo, I can go down, if there's a little arrow there, I can actually manually select how far to undo rather than having to undo one step at a time. But remember, I can only undo one step at a time back. I can't go, undo something I did 10 steps ago. It has to go through all the steps. It can't just go, oh, undo that first thing I did. And remember, as you do work, and this is true, any document you're working on, use Control-S often so you don't lose the work as you go in case something happens to your computer. That used to be much more vital as computers were less stable. Okay, and then although I'm showing larger text, your text doesn't have to be this large. I'm just making it large so it's easy for you to read. We're going to be formatting it with specific font size in a little bit here. I think so. I haven't used it on the browser that much, but I think there is. With Word, if it crashes when you start it up again, it usually reminds you, hey, I've got some files recoverable. I think it would probably do that on the browser, but maybe you can do a little experimenting and find out. Maybe close your browser and come back and see how far it saved. I would bet you every few minutes. And if you close it, it may not recover the last thing you typed, like maybe the last few lines. And I'm thinking as you misspell things, you'll see the little red squigglies, and it's fairly user-friendly on what to do about that. Let's just do that with something just to remind you. Say I spelled this wrong. It won't show me the red squigglies until I leave the word, hitting a space, and I can undo, or anytime you see a misspelling, you can right-click to see the suggested corrections. And just right-click, click on the suggested one. That's the spell checker, very basic concept. And one thing that you can do about I don't know if they show us, you can actually add corrections to your dictionary. Okay, so we got a couple other things now to add. We're going to put in some bulleted. They're going to become bulleted items, but first we'll just type them in normal text. I'm going to keep my text big for now, just for you. Private or group lessons. photo and video packages available. Spelling error. Let's see if it gets the right correction for me. Oh, look at that. Suggested right away the right one. So there's all the text larger than you need. In the book on page, what page is that? Page 10, they do say, save it as Surf Flyer, but we're saving it as last name Word Module 1. If you want to add Surf Flyer to the name, we can do that later. So all we have now is the text. Now we're ready to actually modify some things. So browsing through your document, I can use my arrow keys. Oh, and I've got another spelling correction. I can use my arrow keys up and down through text. I can control left arrow goes back a word. It's often not known by a lot of people. Control left arrow, control right arrow skips a word. Control down and up skips a paragraph. That's the control up and down arrow. There's the end button on your little groups of buttons up there that often people don't know. The end takes you to the end of a line. Control end takes you to the end of the document. Home, what does home do? Control home takes you to the beginning of the document. So some useful shortcuts shown to you on page WD11. Page up and page down, useful when you're dealing with big documents and you have to quickly go up and down by a page. This, clicking in the scroll bar, takes you down a section of the scroll bar. And is there a page? I don't know if there's a page button here except for your keyboard. Since we're only doing a one-page item here, we don't care. Remember, I can control zoom out to see what that's going to look like on the page. Control roll the button to scroll zoom back in. Okay, so now that we've got the text in there, now we're going to format some characters here to make that nice big surfs up with a green background. Now we can change everything. We can set the font size for everything to be a specific font size by doing a Control A, select everything, and I can choose a particular font size. Notice, since they're not all the same size, it shows blank here, but I could choose a selected size, and as I hover over them, it shows me what it'll look like. Or, here's one of my favorite keystrokes, is Control-Shift greater than or less than. It can zoom the text size up and down by a step at a time. And now let's see if they give us a specific font size as we get into these particular documents. All right. Control-Shift greater and less than. Right above the comma and period. Very nice keystroke. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do, we're going to center that surfs up and then adjust its formatting. So anytime I'm anywhere in the paragraph, I have to click so I don't see everything selected. Anytime I'm anywhere in the paragraph, whatever I do here in the paragraph section affects my entire paragraph. In the font section, I have to have certain letters selected before it'll take effect. So keep a track of that. The paragraph section, whatever I do here applies only to the paragraph I'm in, or if I have multiple paragraphs selected. So in this paragraph, I want to center the text. And that's this guy right here. If I hover over it, I'll see the shortcut key to go with it. I don't use that so often to remember the shortcut key, but Control-E will center your text. So I've got it centered, and then we're going to start modifying its. Oh, we're gonna also center that bottom paragraph, that signature line. We're going to center this one as well. So again, click anywhere in this paragraph and center that one. Control E or the center icon. So they're centered, but they're not the font that we want yet. We'll be getting to there. Now I want to select that line in Surf's Up and make some changes to it. Little tip for you: to select the entire line, I can click and drag through it, or I can just click once over to the left of the line and it'll select the entire line. And the white space next to it causes the whole thing to be selected. Another way to select the entire line is triple click. Alright, now that we've got that line selected, we're going to, what are we going to do? We're going to adjust the font. And now the formatting now is being specified. We're on page WD15. We're going to give it a text size of 72 point. If I know it's 72, I could come up here and find 72. I could also type 72 into that little font size button. And notice I could type 71 and it will take it. It will adjust it. It will take a guess at what 71 should look like. Even though 71 doesn't show up in that list. It jumps from 48 to 72. If I want something between that, I have to type the number. And I won't see the effect until I hit enter to see what 60 would look like. But that's handy when I know, and I like 72, but it's a little too big. Remember, you always have the option of typing it in there. But they want 72 there. And our type of font there is supposed to be Calibri, which is the default now. What I copied pasted isn't Calibri. We'll be changing that later. But we're working on that for now. So it's starting as 72 Calibri, but we're also going to change the font type. And on that's coming up, we're changing on the next page. We're changing it to Rockwell Extra Bold. We like Rockwell Extra Bold. So right now by messing around, it's not selected anymore. I want to make sure it's selected before I choose the font. Now I go over here to Rockwell. If I don't find it, I could scroll down or just type R-O-C and it takes me down to the R's. And I have to go down just a little further using my scrolling button. There's my Rockwell Extra Bold. Click on that. Now that font becomes Rockwell Extra Bold. We leave it selected because we're going to be messing with it a little bit more, giving it some colors. We want them to be all capitalized. Well, I could go back and retype it after having it selected. I could retype it, or I could do the handy dandy, change my text case up here. Change it all to uppercase. Rather than retyping it, I can tell it the case. If I want to change it back to lowercase, it does it for me. In a small sentence like that, it's not a big deal, but if you had a whole group of letters that were shouting at you, all caps, you can quickly change them to lowercase without retyping everything. A nice handy key. And I think they have shortcut keys, however. I guess they don't have shortcut keys. There are they're keys, strokes to get you there. So now we've changed it to all caps. Still kind of, we're going to still do some coloring on it now. We're going to select a particular type of text here. Again, in the special typography section here, they have us experiment a little bit with choosing a typography. Right hiding under here, going to choose. If I hover over it, I'll see does it give me a name? If I hover long enough, it should give me the name. Fill white outline accent 2. I think that's the one we want. Yep, that's the one we want. And immediately see the effect. It's kind of annoying to have that paragraph marking there, but they're doing that in the book. but you can turn off the paragraph marking. Remember, that's never going to show in the printout. Okay, so now that is the format of that text. But now here comes a little trick. They're going to actually format the paragraph with some background shading. And this is where it gets, which I don't think is the best way I would do this. I'm going to show you the way the book does it and then show you what I think is a better way. But first, if I'm in that paragraph, it doesn't matter if I'm selected or not. If I want to apply any paragraph formatting, I don't have to turn off selection. I can come over here and we're going to change the shading to a orange accent 2. So come over here, shading, and choose orange accent 2, darker 25%. And see how then it applies a shading to that paragraph I'm in. Now shading is different than highlighting. If you want it highlighted, you can always select text and come over here and highlight it in color. But this shading has a slightly different effect because it's being applied to the entire paragraph. So we've shaded that, and then they're going to go on to the next thing. But I want to show you something that this is good for you to know, that this is outside of the book. If I'm actually wanting to do something like this, I would suggest, rather than using paragraph shading, to do an insert of a text box, and I'm going to draw the text box, and then I would put serifs up, Control A, selecting it all, making that font all caps, increasing the size, Control greater than. I could even center it within that text box. The nice thing about this is I can apply some shading to that text box just like I did the other, but I have a little more flexibility with that text. I can even apply the font style. It remembers the recent font style, and I can apply that. The nice thing about a text box is I have much more control of how it appears on my page. I can adjust its position and make it a cool graphic at the top. I can tip it a little bit. Where a paragraph, you're stuck with it being in line with all the rest of the text. Text boxes give you a little fancier control over something. I think graphically, if you're doing graphics like this, you want to have the capability of the actual placement on the page. So a text box gives you a lot more flexibility than just a shaded paragraph. But see, I can make it look exactly the same, adjusting the text. But this I can place anywhere, and often with, especially with titles on posters, you might want to have a little more control over where exactly that goes. So I'm just showing this as an option when I'm doing things like that. I would recommend, if you're doing anything fancy with graphics, shading a paragraph is very limiting to exactly what you can do. Shaded text boxes give you a lot more flexibility, and I can apply effects to my text box as well, where I can't do that to paragraphs. So just a little free advice there for you. That's not in the book. It's not going to be on the quiz. But if out there in the real world doing posters, text boxes really give you a lot more flexibility in your layout. Okay, so now to these, the rest of the text down here. Got a little more work to do, and then we'll quit in about a couple minutes here, and then we'll finish the rest later. We're going to choose the font size for all of that. We're not going to mess with that bottom title line. We're going to choose the font size for these lines. So I'm going to select through them. Remember, I can drag down the left side to select the entire line. Most people drag down through the text. That's worked well as well. But if you want a quick, select them all down through the left. And now I'm choosing, let's see what we want for the font size there. We're going to make it 24 in the font size, which I already have 24. And what are they going to do also? They're going to probably change the actual style of font. And I think they have it Calibri. When I copy pasted, it pasted it as Times New Roman. I want it to go back to Calibri, which is the default. Turn on and off formatting marks to just see how it's really going to look. Zoom out to see how this is actually going to look on my poster. Got a lot of white space down here, but we're going to be bringing in a picture in a bit. This list of paragraphs in the middle we want to be bulleted. We'll do the bullets, and then we'll end here after the violence. Getting some bullets. Maybe someday they're going to actually change that with all the PC and political correctness going around. No more bullets in schools. We'll call them highlighting marks, not bullets. It's a violent word. Okay, so applying bullets, that's again, remember, that's a paragraph setting. So as long as I have my cursor in the line, in that paragraph, the bullet will make that paragraph bulleted. And remember, I know it's a paragraph because I see at the end of the line the backwards P. Control S, save that. It's to your OneDrive. If you do it to your OneDrive, it's saved. If you are using OneDrive, be sure to sign out of your OneDrive. And we'll be done for today. I'll try to give you a little extra time at the end because sometimes there's file handling issues, saving it to the right place. And because there's a lot of people missing, I'm recording this, and I'll upload a link to the YouTube video. I think I'm recording. Where's my stop recording? I have to find my stop recording button. Where'd it go? There we go.